Hi, Virgo. You were not supposed to find out. That is the part that matters most. Not just what happened, not just what was kept from you, but the deliberate, sustained, carefully maintained decision that you would not know. That the version of reality you were living inside would remain intact. That the story you were being shown would continue to stand in front of the story that was actually unfolding, like a painted backdrop in front of a stage where the real performance was happening just out of your line of sight. But here you are, and here I am. And what the energy around you tonight is carrying with an insistence and a specificity that I cannot set aside in favor of something more comfortable is the weight of things that were kept deliberately, kept with effort, kept at a cost that the people doing the keeping were apparently willing to pay because the alternative you're knowing felt more costly still. Um, what does it mean that someone worked that hard to keep something from you? Sit with that question before we go any further, because I think it is more important than the content of what was kept. The content is specific to your situation, and only you have access to the full picture of what that situation contains. But the meaning, the structural meaning of sustained concealment is universal. It means the thing that was hidden had weight, had consequence, was understood by the people involved in the hiding to be something that would matter to you if you knew. Something that would change things, something that the hidden version of events could not survive exposure to your full and clear eyed attention. In the ancient symbolic maps of the soul's terrain, there is a threshold moment that appears in readings of this nature, the moment when the moon's borrowed and deceptive light is finally replaced by the Sunday, not the gradual brightening of dawn. The full, sudden, merciless clarity of noon, the light that eliminates shadows, not by pushing them to the edges, but by removing the conditions that created them entirely. What was hidden in the moon's ambiguous glow becomes, in that light, simply visible, simply present, simply what it always was, stripped of the careful framing that made it look like something else. That light may be arriving for you, has perhaps already begun arriving in the form of something felt before it was fully understood, in the quality of a moment that seemed slightly wrong before you had the language to explain why, in the specific and cumulative unease of a person whose instincts were accurately registering something their conscious mind had not yet been given sufficient information to name. Soft sigh. Your instincts were accurate. I want to say that first, before anything else, because I think it may be the thing you most need to hear. The moments of wrongness you registered and then explained away, those were not your imagination manufacturing problems where none existed. They were your perception doing exactly what perception is designed to do, gathering data, noticing inconsistency, flagging the specific quality of something that does not quite cohere between what is being presented and what is actually there. Your instrument was working. What was imperfect was not your ability to read the situation, but the amount of information you had been given to read it with. The information was incomplete by design. And incomplete information in a situation that required complete information to navigate accurately is not your failure. It is the failure of the people who held the rest of it back. That distinction matters enormously because there is a version of what you are about to understand that could be turned against you, could be made into a story about your naivety, your trust, your willingness to believe the version of things you were given. And I want to interrupt that version before it gains any traction. Trusting people is not a character flaw. Deceiving them is. Now let me speak about what was happening behind your back, not in the specific details which belong to your particular situation and which the energy of a reading cannot and should not claim to access with false precision, but in the quality of it, the texture, the nature of what I feel when I sit with the energy of what was kept from you. What I feel is coordination. Not a single person making a single choice in a moment of weakness or poor judgment. Something more sustained than that, involving more than one person, requiring ongoing maintenance, demanding the kind of consistent effort that only happens when the people involved are actively, repeatedly choosing to continue the concealment rather than simply having made one regrettable decision that was never corrected. That distinction between a mistake unmaintained and a deception actively maintained is significant. It speaks to intention in a way that changes the moral weight of what occurred. There are people in the story of what happened who knew things about your life that you did not know about your own life, who operated with information that was yours by right, that touched your circumstances, your choices, your understanding of where you stood in a situation that mattered to you, and who chose repeatedly to operate from that information advantage rather than to close it. The power dynamic that creates is not incidental. It is the point. A person who does not know the full picture of their own situation cannot make fully informed decisions within it. And decisions made without full information, however wise, however careful, however consistent with the values of the person making them, are decisions made on a tilted table. The tilt was not your doing, but you bore its consequences. I want to speak to what that does to a person, not in the moment of discovery, which has its own acute and well-documented impact, but in the longer aftermath, because the discovery of sustained concealment produces a specific kind of damage that is different from the damage of ordinary disappointment or ordinary betrayal. It produces a retroactive revision, a going back through the recorded experience of a chapter of your life and rereading it with new information. And what that rereading reveals, the moments that now mean something different, the decisions that would have been made differently, the version of yourself that was navigating a situation while missing crucial coordinates can produce a disorientation that is almost physical in its quality. The sensation of the ground having been different beneath your feet all along without your knowing. That disorientation is legitimate. Let it be felt rather than managed away in the rush to arrive at resolution. Let yourself sit in the specific, uncomfortable, necessary experience of knowing what you now know and allowing it to fully land before you decide what to do with it. Resolution reached too quickly from this particular place tends to be resolution in name only, a surface closing over something that has not yet been fully processed, that will resurface later with accumulated force. Take the time the truth requires. it has waited long enough to be received properly. There is something else I want to name, something that lives alongside the difficulty of this and that deserves equal acknowledgement. The revelation of what was kept from you is also, in a strange and real way, a gift. Not a comfortable gift, not the kind anyone would choose if the alternative were available, but a gift in the specific sense of something that restores what was taken, in this case, accurate information about your own life, your own situation, your own standing in a story you were always the central character of, but were being prevented from reading clearly. You have that clarity now, or it is arriving piece by piece, in whatever order the truth assembles itself, through whatever channels it finds its way to you. And clarity, even the kind that arrives as a shock, even the kind that requires the revision of a carefully constructed understanding, is always, in the end, preferable to the alternative. Always more useful. Always more honoring of the person who deserved it from the beginning. Soft sigh. What do you do with what you now know, or what you are beginning to know? That is the question that matters from here, and I want to speak to it not with instruction, but with the specific kind of companionship that this moment calls for. Because there are several directions available from this place, and none of them are obviously wrong, and all of them deserve to be considered from the full height of who you are rather than from the contracted, reactive place that fresh hurt can temporarily produce. There is the direction of confrontation, of bringing what you know into the open and requiring from the people who maintain the concealment a full accounting and explanation. The specific and costly honesty of being asked to justify to your face what they could only sustain behind your back. That direction has its costs and its rewards and its particular quality of closure, the kind that can only come from the truth being spoken in the same space as the person it concerns. There is the direction of quiet withdrawal, of taking what you know and making your choices based on it without requiring the confrontation, recalibrating your trust, adjusting your proximity, allowing the knowledge itself to reorder your relationship to the situation and the people in it without the additional exposure of a direct engagement. That direction has its own integrity, its own form of self-protection that is not cowardice but wisdom, the recognition that some truths do not require their possessors to perform them publicly in order to act on them. And there is a third direction, the one I feel most strongly in your energy tonight, the direction of integration, of taking what you now know and allowing it to become part of the foundation of a new and more accurate understanding of yourself, the people around you, and the situation you have been navigating, not as a wound to be carried, not as a grievance to be maintained, but as information complete, finally complete, information that makes you a more fully informed participant in your own life than you were before the concealment was lifted. The people who kept things from you had a theory about you, an implicit theory, perhaps never articulated, but present in every choice to maintain the concealment, the theory that you could not handle the truth, that knowing would break something, that the version of you they were protecting from the information was less capable than they were of navigating the full, unspared reality of the situation. They were wrong. You are here Reading this, sitting with what you know or what you are beginning to know. Not broken, not destroyed, shaken, perhaps appropriately, legitimately shaken, but fundamentally, structurally, completely intact. More than intact. Because the person who discovers that they have been navigating a difficult situation without the full picture, and who looks back at how they navigated it, what choices they made, what integrity they maintained, often discovers something unexpected, that they did remarkably well, that the decisions made on incomplete information were, given what was known, sound, that the version of themselves that existed inside the concealment was, in the ways that actually matter, someone worth being. Someone who did not need the full picture to behave with their full character. Someone whose worth was never contingent on the information they were denied. Ugh, that is you. The person who handled something difficult without knowing how difficult it actually was. Who showed up with integrity in a situation designed, however unintentionally, to make integrity difficult. Who trusted because trusting is what genuine people do, and who is now, in the light of what that trust was met with, not diminished but clarified about what matters, about who can be trusted with the real version of your story, about the standard you will require from here of the people who want access to your genuine self, about the non-negotiable quality of honesty that you have always deserved and will no longer accept substitutes for. What happened behind your back was real. The keeping of it was real. And your response to knowing whatever form that takes, at whatever pace it unfolds, will be real too. Real in the specific and unassailable way of someone who has finally, fully been given back their own story, and who intends from this point forward to be the one who writes it. Your story is yours again. If this found you at the exact moment it was meant to, if something here gave language to what you have been sensing without being able to name, stay close, subscribe, and come back. Because what is unfolding in your life right now is a story of reclamation, of a person taking back what was always theirs. And that story deserves to be witnessed all the way through to its most powerful chapter.